All right guys, so today we are going to be doing an install video of our RPM custom single turbo kit for S550 V6 Mustang. So first step, kind of lay out your stuff, get it organized. We still have his customer's cold side pipes inside of his car. Your first step here is going to be removing the cold air intake. So very straightforward, take your one clamp off on your filter. You're gonna pop this off here with this right here. Take off these two clamps and then simply just remove this. All right guys, so if you guys are like this customer and are on a 87 octane or 91 and planning to tune it on E85, before installing the fuel pump, I'd highly recommend getting one of these. You can get these from VMP Performance. It's a fuel pump drain jumper harness. So in the next video here, I'm gonna show you kind of how to set this thing up and how it works and what it does. So you guys can use any sort of setup that you like. Simply all you have to do is disconnect your fuel line from here. I'm just using a basic pipe to put it in. That way when it starts draining the tank, it's gonna flow off and it's gonna flow into an actual container for me. So all you're gonna do is you're gonna go in the back here, like you're doing your fuel pump. And the back seat here is going to be your fuel pump module. So you gotta take your back seat out. This portion of the plug plugs into here. You're gonna plug your bypass harness right into here. That's going to jump it. And then simply all you do is key on. And what that's going to do is then start the drain process. So if you can tell, we're draining fuel out right now. We're gonna get this as empty as we can. That way when we go ahead and put some fresh E85 in it, it's not gonna be mixed with anything else, and it's gonna be some nice, clean, good quality fuel for when we get ready for tuning later on. So also what this is gonna do is this is gonna make your life a little bit easier when removing your stock fuel pump and installing your DW400. So now that the tank is going to be as empty as possible, it's gonna be nice and dry up in here, so you're not gonna get your hand, if you have any little cuts on your fingers, dipping your hand in there to get the hat out, it's not gonna be burning you up and getting fuel all over your hand. Obviously you're gonna have a little bit, but it's just gonna help keep everything a lot cleaner for you. All right guys, so after you're done draining your tank, you're just going to simply remove this, your bypass, plug your fuel pump module back in, and then you are going to start installing your DW400 pump. I'm gonna skip this portion of the install. There's tons of videos out there on how to install a DW400. I'm pretty sure everybody knows out there. The reason why we like to install this first is because obviously it's gonna emit a smell of gasoline in the vehicle. So we'd like to get this part kind of over with. So as we're installing the rest of the turbo kit, the car has some time with the windows down to air out and not have that gasoline smell in it anymore. So after you get the fuel pump installed, you're gonna come over here and start removing your exhaust. So you have your two bolts, that are right here that go to your headers, and you have the other two over here. You're then going to start removing all of your nuts on your headers that are attached to the block. I don't know if you can see this side. After that, you can then feel free to drop the rest of the exhaust down and get that out of your way so you can work a lot easier. After you get the headers off and all the exhaust, what you're gonna kind of do is remove the oil pan. So the easiest way I like to do it is get a little engine stand like that, a little hoist, support it up about typically like an inch or two off the motor mount. And then we're gonna lower the K member to kind of be sitting on the bolts an inch or two as well. That way it'll give us the clearance to drop the oil pan out all the way a lot easier. So once you get to the bottom of the engine, you're going to loosen all of these K member bolts. So if you can tell, I don't have them all the way off, but enough to give a little bit of gap to where it's dropped down. So you got two over here, you got two by the motor mount and the wheel, and then you have two towards the front. And that's gonna be the same for this side as well. Once that's lowered a little bit, you can start removing all of your oil pan bolts. So you got one back here. Don't forget about these two. You got two here in the bottom back of it, and then all the way around. And then you also have to make sure you get these front ones right here, because those are also attached to the oil pan. All right, after you get your oil pan out, this is going to be the rear section of it. Right here is where you want to drill your hole on the outside of it. So after you get your hole drilled here, you're gonna go ahead and grab your bulkhead fitting. Notice you're gonna have a washer on the outside here. You're gonna stick your fitting through, and then you're also going to have a washer on the inside with your nut on the inside, and then tighten that down all the way. Make sure your hole isn't too small, so you shouldn't have to jam that bulkhead fitting in there. If you do, it'll actually mess up the threads. And when AN threads are messed up like that, it can cause a lot of leaking. Now to put your oil pan back in, make sure you clean up all this old gasket material is on here. These actually don't use an oil pan gasket. Instead, they use silicone from the factory. So you're gonna grab your oil pan, you're gonna lay a thin bead of silicone all the way around it. And then you're also, if you'd like, you don't have to, I like to, lay another little thin bead of silicone on the top here just to make sure it's sealed. And then put your bolts back in, and then we're done with the oil pan portion. Make sure your motor mount bolts are back in and those are tightened all the way. You're going to remove your OEM header gaskets. You could either leave them just like this, or you can use what we like to use some copper spray. That's going to ensure that you have a good seal on there. Like I said, you don't have to use it. I just like to use it just so you don't have to do the work twice if you do have a leak. And then grab your headers and simply install them on the car and get them bolted down all the way. After that, you need to remove your sway bar. So you're gonna have brackets like this on each side, and then you're also going to have to disconnect them from this linkage here. If you can pull it out, cool. Easier way, if you want to save some time, grab a Sawzall, cut it in half right here. That way it'll come out real easy for you. Do not wish to cut your sway bar off and want to remove it. Remove your wheel on one side and you could slide it out through a side. So we got the wheel removed and we got the sway bar all out in one piece. So that way, if you ever decide you want to go back to stock or anything like that, you have the capability of doing so. If you are like this customer, when after you spray the copper spray on it and you go to put it on the car, it just starts falling apart, make sure to get yourself a new set of header gaskets, either from Ford or O'Reilly. If you're gonna get them through O'Reilly, get a set of Fel Pros. Otherwise, Ford Motorcraft stock ones, they work perfectly fine. So we're gonna get these sprayed up, put on there, and then put the headers on. We already got the sway bar out, so after the headers are on, we're gonna start with all the hot side and the crossover pipe. After you get your headers in, you're gonna put this crossover pipe in right here like so. Make sure you're checking clearance with these lines here and these lines here. These are your trans lines. If you need to loosen this a little bit to move these lines up to clear it, you can. As you can see, it is clear, as well as this one here is clear. You're gonna have your other pipe that's gonna be coming here to this side of the header. It's going to come up, around, and over into here. And then we're gonna start with the next pipe. After you got that crossover pipe in, you're gonna connect this pipe to it, which is gonna come through here on the driver's side. You can clearance this and notch it a little bit if you need to. You shouldn't have to. It makes it a little bit easier on you though, so you can go ahead and do that. That's going to connect to your up pipe here, which your turbo is going to mount right on top of right here. Make sure you have all of your clamps right here for your wastegate tight, as well as your downpipe. Notice the downpipe positioning. I don't want to have it angled too much to where it's going to be burning any lines or anything like that, so make sure it is clear. If you have any brake lines that are close, like we had this one that was touching, just simply go like this and move them out of the way. And then after that, bolt your turbo on, simply sit your turbo on, put the bolts through it. This is a threaded or CNC billet flange, so just go ahead and go through the top of the turbo and thread that right into there. All right, after you get your turbo in there, put your little fitting on top of it, put a little red Loctite on it, put your feed hose on there, the 90 degrees goes up top, run it down, and it is going to go right up in here like so. So after you get this in, feel free to use some brake clean it off a little bit. You're pretty much just taking off that portion up there, and you are threading in the new one, and then threading that in there, and it is going to be right in the middle, and that's where it's going to feed the turbo of oil. You're going to have a little bit of extra line, so get this out of the way. You can kind of just zip tie it up. Still got to trim that zip tie, but just have a zip tie right up there, and then that is going to be it for your feed. After you get all that taken care of, you want to get your intercooler mounted. So use the bolts provided. You can drill a hole through right here. You're going to use a nut on the back side, and it's going to mount just like so. As you can see, you have a nut on the inside holding it in. After that, you want to get your pipe coming off the turbo connected. So you're going to use this reducer coupler right here. It's going to come off the turbo like so, and then simply go into your 90. It should look something like this coming off of your turbo. Also, didn't record it earlier, but I have our drain line all hooked up with the AN and just have it routed away so it's not going to be touching any hot pipes. Notice we have a large gap right there, so it's not going to be having any issues burning through or melting. All right, to show you guys a little orientation, I kind of have this laid out here for you. So your intercooler is going to be going right in the middle, but this way you can kind of see the routing, how it's going to go, to give you a little visual aspect before you get to installing everything. The couplers are obviously going to go in between the pipes, and that 45 is going to be the one going to your throttle body. That's obviously your downpipe. That's why I have it over there, kind of like the turbo was there, to show you guys a little orientation of it. So pipe coming off the turbo is on. It's going to come through and go to your intercooler like so. It's going to be a little bit tight in this area. You can cut a small piece into the fan shroud. Just flaps. It does not affect your performance at all, so no reason to freak out about doing that. We cut a little bit more than was needed just to give us a little extra clearance. Also, this is going to appear like it is pinched through here. Take note. This is a normal coupler, 3 inches. Under boost, 3 inches circular or pinched like this is going to flow the exact same amount of CFM under pressure. So no, this is not going to be affecting your performance at all. Do not freak out. Do not do any of those things. That is that. So going to your intercooler, next step is we're going to be coming over to the passenger side. You are going to remove your windshield wiper reservoir, and then we're going to put our last couple pieces of pipe on. So on the passenger side, you are going to use the 90-degree pipe, which we had laid out, and it's going to connect right there to your other pipe. And then on top, you will see how it connects and how we have it going to the throttle body. So up top here, you can see how this goes. Goes right under the AC line. That's where it meets down to that pipe right there. You are then going to have this one that is going to go right under this coolant line, right there. Also note, this is a little bit different. So this customer actually has a GT throttle body with the throttle body adapter. So because this throttle body is larger, we did not have a 3.5 inch coupler. So we have a 3-inch coupler that's stretched over it a little bit to hold it. That's why you kind of see this bulge. Also, on our normal kit is provided a 45, but because this throttle body adapter is here, it's pushing it forward another inch. So the 45 was not able to fit. So we have another 90-degree coupler that we had laying around that we used for this one. After you get all that stuff done, you're pretty much all done with the cold side. So next step, put your downpipe in. So as you can tell, we got our downpipe. We did make a revision. The first kit we sent out had a 1-piece downpipe. Every single kit after that has a 2-piece downpipe. So you can see where it separates right there. Easiest way to do this, get your downpipe, separate it from there, put your bottom half in from the top, clamp this side, not all the way so you can still rotate it, and then meet up with the clamp right there and get that all tight. After that, you're going to be starting on the vacuum lines and hooking up your boost controller, and then you should be all good to go. All right guys, so last video, downpipes in, all your cold sides hooked up, everything's here. So as far as vacuum, there's a million ways you can do it. So you're gonna pull off of the intake manifold here. You can use 2 of the T fittings. You can go like this, or you can flip one T upside down so it's going to come to a cross like this to have 2. Regardless, you need 2 sources coming off of here. One is going to be for your blow-off valve, and it goes right to the top of the blow-off valve like this. The other one is going to go to your wastegate. Sorry, I had to grab a flashlight. All right, so to your wastegate. Notice we are plumbed into right here. You are always going to want to leave one open. Your top port should be open. Since he's actually using an e-boost controller, instead of going directly to the gate, we are grabbing this line that's coming off of the intake manifold and going into our e-boost first, and then into the gate. If you are using a manual boost controller, you're going to do the same concept. So instead, you're going to have your manual boost controller in between before you get to the gate. Then we have our boost reference line for our e-boost and all of our wiring all tucked up nice, and that is going into the cabin. And then we got our e-boost set up and we are good to go.